Hey guys, welcome to Far Out RV Service. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to change out this 10-gallon Suburban water heater for a Furrion On-Demand system. So far I've turned off the water, I've turned off the gas. I'm going to drain the water heater. I'm going to go in and take the lines off the back. We'll get this old guy out of here. I've got the new one in the box right here with a door that fits it for a 10-gallon Suburban, and let's see what happens. Okay, so we're on the inside now. I've got the water lines disconnected, the circuit board disconnected, the harness unplugged from it, and the spark lead. I've got the wires going to the switch disconnected, and this power supply unplugged. In this one, it had no 12 volts, so they added this power supply to run this unit. It's not big enough for the on-demand system, so I bought a different one. But when I go to hook it up, I'll let you see. So unboxing the Furrion water heater, we got the controller laying on top here in the styrofoam, and then the unit underneath. I'm going to shut off the video so I can lift it out with two hands and actually put it down on the ground, just so I don't bend or break anything. I'm going to be super careful with it. So here's the Furrion unit I'm going to install in the space of where this 10-gallon Suburban water heater used to be. I've had to frame in the opening so that I could get the water heater in the very center of this one, partly because of the trim. And I would think any one of these you would probably have to do that with, try and get it in the very center of the hole. The instructions tell you the dimensions. It's 12 3/4 by 12 3/4, roughly. Closely to that. So the next step is to actually get the unit mounted in the hole, and then I'm gonna put the door assembly on, and then we can start running plumbing to it and propane and power and get her turned on and fired up. Okay, we got it all done up here. The book says 3 amp, preferably 15 amp, 12 volt DC. Now, one thing people have to understand about these is they run on 12 volt or battery power and propane to heat it only. It does not run on plug-in electricity. So I've taken and I've installed a 150 watt LED driver. I didn't put a fuse in because it does say in the manual that it has an internal 10 amp fuse. This should run at about 12 amps or so. It really only requires about 3 amps or so to run it. So I decided to go with a little bit more. Probably a 200 watt would do as well, which would get you probably over the 15 amp. But this should be pretty close to about 12 or so running this LED driver. It's also weatherproof and water resistant, so if anything does happen here, hopefully nothing happens to the 12 volt converter. So what I did also was there was 4 wires coming to the original Suburban on-off reset switch. I used 2 of the wires that were of the 4 to run this controller because there's only 2 wires on the back of the controller. So how a on-demand system in an RV works is you just turn on the hot water as hot as you can get it, as much as possible. Then the heater itself will turn on and start heating the water. Now this is in Celsius, but as you can see, it's not really all that hot. But as I turn the flow down, or the volume of the water down, it'll get hotter. Right? So the more I turn it down, the hotter the water will become. And that's the way an RV tankless water heater works. So you can see I've lost a lot of flow, but the water is quite hot. It's even steamy. It's hard to hold my hand under that. But so if you turn it up all the way, that's what you should do when you turn them on. Crank them on all the way. The water heater will fire up, and then you can actually dial back the pressure to increase the temperature. So right now, again, it's gone down in temperature because I turned it way up high, and now I'll just turn it down some. And as I turn it down, the temperature comes up. So that's how a tankless water heater in an RV kind of works. Some of them are a little bit different. This one, as far as I understand at the moment, they did not put any kind of winter usage device. So if you're going to have a RV you're using full time and you're going to be using it in the winter, you're probably better off to buy a different manufacturer, like a Girard or something like that. That way you don't have to worry about it freezing itself and breaking open. But the water's nice and hot now. Ooh, that's hot. Working really well. Next thing is to, I wanted to make sure that it was all working first before I went ahead and sealed off the door. So I'm going to do that on the exterior, but this is nice and tied up the wires so they're up out of the way. Nothing's sitting on the bottom where it could get wet, and we have more power than required, which is great. This is a really nice installation. I haven't done one of these before, but I've done a lot of Girards, and these are quite similar. We went this way because it was a little bit cheaper, and she has no need to use this in the winter time. The other thing that I might want to also mention is that I removed the bypass completely. You do not need to isolate the water heater, and in fact, you do want to run antifreeze through it to prevent it from freezing in the winter time. So that's the best way to go about it. Okay, here we are. I've cleaned the outside. I've run bright white Proflex around. I use bright white because it does not fade and go kind of like a RV or almond white over time. I also took, there's a little tray here that goes in the bottom here. I took it off to put a little bead all the way along here, so if it does leak inside, it's gonna hopefully run out the door and not into the RV where it can cause rot and water damage. The other thing I did notice as well is there is a flow dial here, so I dialed it back some. I'm gonna try and fire it up again, see how the hot water goes. That way too, you can mix cold with the hot as well, and hopefully be more like a regular water heater when you're using it. Or people are more, I find, people are more used to a regular water heater style of usage, so I try and replicate that where I can. So there it is, the Furrion instantaneous or tankless or instant hot water, or whatever you want to call it, tankless water system in place of a 10-gallon Suburban. It would also replace, this door kit would also replace the 12-gallon of the same type and the 16-gallon of the same type. You can get other adapter kits to fit other manufacturers, like the old Atwood ones, and probably the new Dometic ones as well, which would just be probably a regular door because I think they're the same footprint. So, but it's working pretty good. I've got it dialed down about halfway. I had to go check the temperature inside and put the door on the outside right here. So, kind of like the Suburban water heater door. And that's it. New tankless hot water, and doesn't take up any more space than the other one did. It's very properly installed, we'll say. There are other types that you can do, but this one is constant, non-stop hot water until you shut it off. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully we'll get you better, more content in the future.